What's up, passionate DJs? Thank you for joining me today. This is a big deal because today we're talking about the AlphaTheta XDJ-AZ. Now, this isn't the first standalone DJ system that Pioneer DJ or AlphaTheta has come out with, and in fact, it's not the only 4-channel one, but in a lot of ways, it's the one that we always asked Pioneer to make. For the price, there's going to be a lot of questions, and I hope to answer those for you today, right here on Passionate DJ. Now, the AlphaTheta XDJ-AZ has a design philosophy that's shared with the earlier XDJ-XZ, whose primary flaw has always been that it only offered 2 channels in standalone mode. It was 4 channels as it relates to the mixer only. The Opus Quad is a great unit that offers true 4-channel operation, but it strays from the club design philosophy, and honestly, it doesn't really truly feel like a CDJ-3000 experience. The AZ fixes all this and includes one of the nicest screens you're ever to see on a standalone. And unlike the Opus, AlphaTheta had the good sense to include access to streaming services on launch date. It works with your own library via its dual USB ports, by streaming via Cloud Direct Play, and also supports Beatport and Apple Music. This is great, though I would like to see Tidal here. The experience of using the XDJ-AZ is truly the closest thing that I've found to using CDJ-3000s and a Pioneer DJ mixer, all the way down to the effects suite that comes straight out of the DJM A9. If it had 2 screens and browse knobs instead of 1, I'd bet you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. AlphaTheta has brought their low-latency SonicLink technology to the AZ, which means if you buy their high-end proprietary headphones, you can enjoy lag-free audio without any cords or dongles. On top of all this, the AZ is designed with high audio quality in mind. The onboard 32-bit analog-digital converters by ESS Technologies, the high-quality mic circuits, the balanced connections, and those crispy Pioneer effects all combine for a crystal-clear experience. The XDJ-AZ is $31.99 US, and you can get yours from my friends over at the DJ Hookup. They were already the highest rated DJ equipment retailer online with over 6,000 verified customer reviews since 2010, but now they have new management, a new logo, and some new stock, including the highly desired XDJ-AZ. The DJ Hookup is committed to continue building on its stellar foundation as a leader in the DJ hardware space. They're even expanding the catalog into new brands and entirely new categories such as lighting and atmospherics. So as you may know, we've happily promoted the DJ Hookup for a few years now here on Passionate DJ. And if you've ever bought from them in the past, you can rest assured that the DJ Hookup is still here to give you the best prices on the latest and best gear. Because the DJ Hookup sells DJ equipment to their friends. It's that simple. So here we are looking at the top of the AZ, and the first thing that I'm going to say is, well, this thing is just big. I mean, there's no 2 ways around it. You know, you're trying to fit all that functionality in that kind of basically the CDJ-3000 and Pioneer DJM setup into an all-in-one kind of thing, and you don't want to make it super cramped, so that's what you end up with is a rather large footprint. Now, that being said, it's still going to be a smaller footprint than those individual components together. It's just that when you take it to a gig, you're going to need to, get up under here under these little carrying handles and be able to lug that thing around. And there are some little grips under there, under where the handles are. They're less for grip and they're more for showing you where the center of balance is, because if you were to grip it in the dead center, it's a little top heavy and it actually tends to tilt forward. Now, the next thing I want to say is it does have a big, beautiful, clear screen here, and it's nice to see that because, obviously you're going from the idea of 2 screens to 1 here, so you want it to be nice and big and readable, and it is all those things. I want to say the scrolling quality is not as nice as I would like to see it. I don't know, it just seems a little bit jittery, but outside of that, all the text is like super sharp, super readable. The color is brilliant and beautiful. It gets super bright. I've only got it on brightness 3 of 5 right now, and it's plenty for in here, but it's nice to know that you can get it brighter for, outdoors or, brighter situations like that. On the left side, we've got our mic controls here. Up in the top left, next to the quantize button, you've got a low, medium, and high EQ for both microphones. So that's actually pretty nice to have full 3-band EQs for both mics. It's kind of a rarity. You also have a push to talk and a talk over button right there. And then on the right side, you've got your master output controls here. With a master EQ, you can use this as an EQ or an isolator. your master output level and your meters right here, along with your booth output level. And then of course your 2 USB inputs here for thumb drives, making it nice and easy to transition between 2 different DJs or whatever you need to do. For now, let's come down here to the mixer section, and this really is a whole lot like a DJM-A9. So you have your whole effects strip here with the channel select, to select which channel you're applying the effects to. Select right here whichever effect you want to apply, the frequency that you want to apply it to, and then of course you have the nice touchpad here for modifying your effects in different little segments. So you've got all those basic controls right here, your level and depth, your time, and of course you engage and disengage it right here. Just like DJM mixers, you can select the frequency bands you're applying those effects to, low, mid, and high. The most common use here for me is to disable the low band. I rarely want effects applied to the bass frequencies, especially a delay effect like this where it could get rumbly. Here's the helix effect, and you'll notice it's kind of rumbly and busy. Let's disable the bass frequencies and then see what happens when I swipe my finger around. The beat effects have their own quantized setting. If you notice that the effects weren't exactly hitting on the beat, this is why. So let's engage it. And then if we come over, we see we have 6 color effects as well over here. So you've got your basic filter, and then you've got your noise filter, crush, sweep, all that kind of stuff, which sounds exactly the way that you expect it to. We'll try out dub echo and space. And of course you have your normal filter. The parameter knob over here will let you manipulate these sound color effects. For example, with filters, it adjusts the resonance or how squelchy it sounds. There's a rather large mixer settings gear icon button right here, and if you push that, it does indeed bring you to your mixer settings. So we'll look at that a little bit when we look at the screen, but as you can see, it's basically just your curves and things like that, and it gives you kind of a quick shortcut to that. It's quite a bit of real estate dedicated to that one button, but that's what they've decided to do. We have our headphones controls down here, and we're going to come back and talk about headphones a little bit more in the next segment. But the faders feel pretty good. I wouldn't say that these feel like they came straight out of the A9, particularly the crossfader. I don't think this is a Magvel. You can see it doesn't really bounce around real loose, so it probably isn't ideal for lots of scratching if that's what you do, though it is up to the task. You could go in here to your mixer settings, change your crossfader curve to something really sharp, and then you should be able to do that. Now, the one thing that this does really have that's nice for scratching or any other kind of manipulation of your tracks is these big, beautiful jog wheels. And these, it's hard to tell without having them side by side, but these feel a whole lot like the CDJ-3000's jog wheels do. Sometimes you can feel little differences, little variances in the jog wheels between product lines, but I've got to say that if you turn this one all the way to light, it really definitely likes to spin. It's got really low resistance, which reminds me a whole lot of the CDJ-3000. Above each jog wheel, you select whether you're controlling decks 2 or 4. So obviously this is a 4-channel system here. Now, if you wanted to, you could add CDJ-3000s on each side, and then you could control 4 decks that way and still go through the mixer. Most people are probably not going to be doing that, so you'll select the decks right there. I kind of like this top center location of that. Loop controls. So I'm kind of on the record as saying that my favorite loop controls are rotary encoders that you can push the button in and it enables a loop, and then you twist it left or right to change the size. You know, I'm not a big fan of these in and out and re-loop buttons, though that is a old school Pioneer thing, and a lot of people are probably used to that and do like it. But I do like that they have the inclusion of the 4 and 8 beat loop buttons here, so you could just grab an instant loop of one of those sizes, and then if you need to adjust the size of it, you can obviously just do that. You hold the shift key and you've got a 1/2 and 2x button here. All this stuff up here looks pretty similar to CDJs or XDJs. You've got your cue and loop stuff up here, and your memory recall buttons, and your jog feel, your vinyl mode. Your sync controls are up here as well. So you've got your beat sync and then also key sync. As you can see, you've got really nice long throw pitch faders. So if you're a manual beat match kind of person, then you're gonna like this. But obviously you have this tempo reset button here, which is nice. So there is no center detent, meaning like when you pass 0, it doesn't click or anything. So if you want to make sure that you're bang on 0, you can just hit that button and you'll know for sure. Pads look and feel how you expect. They feel really nice. They have like beat pad resistance. In other words, they feel rubbery like drum pads, as opposed to like clicky like these, where they actually, you can hear them, right? And of course you have all your favorite pad modes here, and it's very responsive. Here I've set a bunch of hot cues. You'll notice a delay because I've got quantize on, so it's snapping to the beat. You can engage loops here, or use slip loop to make it so that the underlying track doesn't change while you're playing with repeating loops. Now if I turn off that quantize button, the response is immediate. Now I want to talk a little bit about the screens and the general user interface. When you start up, it'll ask you what your music source is. Choose any available drive or streaming service here. And remember, Apple Music is now included even though it's not shown on this recording. The touchscreen is as responsive as it is sharp, but it's nice that these CDJ-3000 style shortcuts are included as hard buttons. It's really easy to just hit browse, select a track, tell it which deck to load into, and go. You can easily access your browse, tag list, search, and menu functions up here, but honestly, my favorite one is always the playlist button. That's almost always where I actually want to go when I'm DJing, so I'm happy it's there. And here's the mixer settings screen, using that button we talked about earlier. Here you have mic settings, including feedback reduction and effects assignment. On the top right, you can engage recordings. And below you have your decks 3 and 4 and headphone settings and curve adjustments. You'll notice that Bluetooth is available as a source, and indeed you can play tracks via Bluetooth. This is unrelated to any wireless monitoring or speakers, just to be clear. So I'll just quickly skim through the rest of the utility menu here. Now here you have settings for decks, such as your load lock, which keeps you from loading on top of a playing track, your quantize value, and whether you automatically load hotkeys, stuff like that. Mixer settings is, well, yet another mixer settings menu. This basically does most of the stuff that we just showed on that shortcut button, just in a list menu with a few extra options. Audio output sets your attenuation and mono stereo settings. Display gives you options for, well, displaying things, such as the position of your waveform on the screen, what shows up on the on-jog display, and how bright everything is. Network lets you configure your Wi-Fi or wired network settings. Bluetooth settings are configured here. And the General tab has very basic settings such as your language and screensaver, plus information about your specific unit. Everything around the browse knob is what you expect from a CDJ-3000, including the track tag and filter options and the shortcut button. So let's move on to the jog wheel displays. Now as you can see here, it's showing that I have a 32-bar beat loop engaged. When I exit the loop, it reverts back to album artwork, and it does look quite lovely. But there's another cool trick. If you double tap the shift button, it brings up your pad info display. Now this is a visual representation of what your beat pads below will do in the current pad mode. So when I have hot cues selected, it shows a grid of hot cues representing each pad with their individual color and location. But if you're using beat loop or slip loop mode, it'll show the different beat divisions. So having this visual feedback at the press of a button without having to search for this information on your laptop screen is a rather underrated feature. Alright, so let's take a moment to talk about all the various connections and ports that are available on the AZ. So on the back, you'll see a single USB-C port. So if you're using Serato or Rekordbox with your laptop, that's where you'll connect it. There's also an Ethernet port, which gives you internet access via hard wire, and also lets you connect to other CDJ or XDJ players for more control. There's a nice set of balanced connections here. XLR main output, quarter-inch booth output, and you also have two XLR/quarter-inch combo jacks for microphones. And of course there's also an RCA master output. You get two sets of RCA inputs for your external sources, including turntables. There's a ground peg here in the middle if your tables require that. The inclusion of a standard IEC power port is nice, and your power supply is completely internal. So yes, while the AZ is huge, you at least don't have to deal with a wall wart. Inside the XDJ-AZ, AlphaTheta has included a transmitter for their new low-latency wireless standard called SonicLink. Now this matches perfectly with the AlphaTheta XDJ-F10 headphones, mainly because it's currently your only option. These are the first SonicLink headphones on the market. There's no support for Bluetooth headphones, mainly because the latency, or lag, makes it pretty difficult for Bluetooth to be useful for a DJ. There's also no built-in support for their SonicLink speaker, called the Wave 8, though this could still work using its included adapter. I'll be reviewing the F10 headphones in an upcoming video, but I definitely wanted to test it with the AZ. To show the response time, I shoved my microphone into the headphones so you can hear what it sounds like to cue in them. And as you can see, it's very responsive and lag-free. Pairing these headphones works very much like Bluetooth. Hold down the pairing button on both devices until they start blinking and ultimately find each other. Simple enough. A high-speed wireless audio protocol is a great idea for the DJ booth, but regarding whether SonicLink itself will catch on, time will tell. Stay tuned for that F10 review coming soon. So let's talk a little bit about my wish list. Generally speaking, the XDJ-AZ pretty much answers my prayers in regards to a 4-channel all-in-one standalone record box solution, but I do have a small wish list. First, it would have been nice to have a tilt screen. This is one of the best features of Denon DJ's Prime 4, not only for comfort, but also to help avoid glare from overhead lights or the sun. Also, it would have been really cool to have individual deck screens in addition to the big middle screen, just like they demonstrated on the Opus Quad. Now, true, maybe this is a little overkill, but I think it would have been convenient to see individual track data on each side. The recent inclusion of Apple Music is nice, but it would be nice to see Tidal on the list of streaming services. Not for any brand loyalty reasons, but for the limited libraries offered by these services. More is better since we can't seem to keep Spotify on board for DJ applications. Finally, the inclusion of a dual queue system would be the icing on the cake, making it easier for two DJs to do tag team sets or pass back and forth. Now, none of these things are deal breakers, but they would have been nice inclusions at this price point. So let's do a couple of comparisons. The Opus Quad is an obvious alternative to the AZ since they're both high-end units from the same company and cost the same money. Now, while the XDJ-AZ appeals to the club, festival, or rave DJ, the Opus Quad has features geared towards high-end mobile DJs, or really any home user who wants a unique aesthetic, but doesn't really care about so-called club standard design. So here's some of the differences. The individual deck screens are included on the Opus Quad. Now, rather than a focus on the jog wheel display, much of that information is located in a larger rectangular display above each deck. Jog wheels on the Opus Quad aren't as nice as the AZ. The feel is more similar to a CDJ 2000 Nexus 2 rather than a 3000. The XY pad on the Opus Quad offers a neat way to add some creative control to your effects, where the XDJ-AZ has an X pad only. The effects are accessed differently. On the Opus Quad, you don't have as many hardware inputs for this. Rather, when you turn the select knob, your effects options pop up on the screen. Streaming services differ as well. Currently, the Opus Quad supports Tidal and Beatport, and the AZ supports Apple Music in Beatport. Gate queue mode is offered on the AZ, and this enables controller-style hot queue behavior. Pro DJ Link is also only offered on the AZ, which lets you expand with other players. Now, zone output is only offered on the Opus Quad, and this enables separate audio output to multiple rooms, which can be helpful for certain mobile DJs. Now, in comparison to the XDJ-RX3, well, that's effectively a 2-channel version of an XDJ-AZ. So if you never actually use 4 channels, you can save over $1,000 and just get this. The screen, the user interface, deck section, and jog wheel are all based around the CDJ-3000, much like the AZ. The mixer section is more like a 2-channel version of a DJM-900 Nexus 2. The build quality is top-notch, the screen is terrific and responsive, and you can still connect external players like turntables. Now, as far as competitors from other companies, the Prime 4, or now Prime 4 Plus, from Denon DJ was the original 4-channel flagship standalone, and it's the standard that all new standalones still get compared to. Denon DJ wasn't messing around when they dropped the Prime 4. It might even be fair to say that it was revolutionary in the DJ space, or at least, it helped make huge waves when it came to changing your writer. In other words, switching from record box. But in the few years since, this segment has grown, so where does the Prime 4 Plus still have the edge? Well, while the touchscreen on both units is lovely, the Prime 4 Plus edges it out both on sharpness and smoothness, for example, the way that waveforms scroll, and also it tilts. Music sources are more varied on the Prime 4 Plus. There's 4 USB inputs instead of 2, so that makes it easy to also do things like hook up 2 controllers to it, like LC6000s for controlling decks 3 and 4. There's an SD card slot, there's a SATA drive bay underneath, and you can connect 4 external sources versus 2. You also have way more streaming services on the Prime 4 Plus. Apple Music, Amazon Music Unlimited, Tidal, Beatport, BeatSource, and SoundCloud Go Plus. Now there's a zone output on the Prime 4 Plus, so you can do separate audio output to multiple rooms. You also get lighting control on the Prime 4 Plus thanks to engine lighting. And you get stems on the Prime 4 Plus, though it's worth noting you have to pre-render those, but this lets you separate your songs into vocal, melody, bass, and drum parts. The jog wheels are bigger and better on the XDJ-AZ, and software compatibility is also better on the AZ since it supports both Rekordbox and Serato when you're using it like a DJ controller, whereas you only get Serato on the Prime 4 Plus. So generally speaking, the Prime 4 Plus offers a value that's hard to beat. You can save $1,000 over the AZ and still have a well-supported flagship product that plays in 4 channels using any source your heart desires, though it's worth noting that the XDJ-AZ is noticeably larger than the Prime 4 Plus. So to sort of wrap it up, the XDJ-AZ is one of those devices that looks like a value if compared to its individual components, but looks expensive if compared to its competitors. And the same could be said of its physical size. But it mimics the professional club setup so perfectly at less than half the cost. And this makes me think it's a viable option for smaller bars, clubs, and venues who want a pro-level house setup and are tired of renting gear. It's also great for any DJ who often plays on a Rekordbox-powered setup, who wants the quote-unquote best club setup duplicated at home within reason. Now, with the availability of the XDJ-AZ, it really makes the idea of buying CDJ-3000s and a DJM-AZ mixer for the home feel really overkill. It's the standalone 4-channel DJ system that they should have released from the beginning. The Opus Quad is nice, but I'm honestly struggling to find reasons to recommend it over the AZ, but I can think of plenty of reasons to recommend the reverse. Now, while this is in many ways the answer to our standalone Rekordbox prayers, $3,200 is a hard sell for many of us. Now, if that's too pricey for you, there's no reason at all that you can't get a DJ controller instead. I might recommend the DDJ Flex 10, there's a link below to my review to that, and the DDJ Groove 6, which I'm going to be reviewing in about a week, so stay tuned for that. And so there you go, that is the XDJ-AZ. Now, obviously the question is going to be, is this worth it for me? And as with every other Pioneer or AlphaTheta product, that's really going to come down to you. That's not an easy question to answer. For me, I gotta say I'm actually considering it. I'm really thinking about getting rid of my old setup here, which is, standalone components. It's good stuff, it still works, but it's getting a little long in the tooth, it's kind of aging, and upgrading to something like this by selling all my old gear to pay for it would really kind of modernize my setup and bring me into 2025. But what about you? What do you think of the AZ and its place in the market and how much it costs? I'd love to know more about what you think, and if you want to get one, make sure you pick yours up at thedjhookup.com. But for now, that's all. I'm David Michael. This has been Passionate DJ, and as always, keep on spinning. And by the way, if you are shopping around for standalone DJ systems, you should check out my guide, which is linked right here on the end screen. Obviously, I need to update it to include the AZ now, but there's still a lot of great info in there.